Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Conversation Capital. This week we're drinking water. It's clearly January and we're here to detox and get ourselves looking all healthy and pretty skinned. It's nice to have you in the studio. We've got Zakani, somebody who's inspiring me to look better and healthier and sexier. This morning we're talking, or afternoon, whatever time you're watching it, it is the internet after all. We're chatting all things to do with pretty privilege. What does it mean to have some kind of pretty privilege? And I think this conversation is especially significant for people like you who are in the industry of looking beautiful all the time. As Beyonce would say, pretty hurts. We're also joined by our beautiful voice behind the mic, Bonga. And we're just saying, what does it mean to be beautiful? What does it mean to have some kind of privilege? We hear of white privilege. We hear of male privilege. Those things are quite clear-cut and obvious. But pretty is something that's a bit more tricky because it's within the eye of the beholder. So we tried by all means to get somebody who should experience a certain level of pretty privilege. I should be honest, since she walked into the room, my cameramen have not glanced or focused on the camera or anybody else. And so we're hanging out with Sakane Sono, who is Miss Ekoli. And she's also been the finalist of several pageants, flat stomach, everything, man, that one would consider beautiful. I don't know what else is on the long list of what people consider pretty, but she is all those things. And it becomes then difficult, though, because we were chatting off air and she says, this pretty privilege you talk about, I don't always experience it in my own. And I'm just like, if you don't experience pretty, who the hell gets to experience this thing because it's so objective? Firstly, Hi, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. How are you? You look amazing.
Oh.
You are absolutely stunning.
Oh, wow. This is becoming a you tell me, I tell her. You know, get a room. I was like, geez.
But you are gorgeous.
What's going on here? Yeah. So, it was a bit of a mouthful, but like we're just getting towards what does it, what in the context that you experience pretty, first of all, do you find yourself feeling the pressure to be even pretty, and what does even prettier look like? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, beauty isn't the eye of the, like, you think I'm pretty, I think you're pretty, somebody doesn't think I'm pretty, it's all in the, but like, do you ever find yourself in a space where you have to meet a kind of standard within your industry? And do you find that other models, maybe the more lighter skinned models, experience a type of privilege compared to you, or ones with the weave? Thank you, Zozibini Tunzi, for, excelling above and beyond the standard. But you know what I'm getting at? Do you ever find yourself lacking within the privilege that you should have as a model?
Yeah. I think when it comes to pretty privilege, it becomes a very difficult topic because once you are in an industry where beauty is kind of, the standard and beautiful is defined in a certain way. It's not diverse in the way that it should be. It does become difficult when you don't necessarily fit that box. There have been times when I felt like maybe I'm not pretty enough. Maybe if I was like this or like that, then I would fit more the mold of what beauty actually is. But I'm just very grateful, I think, to be in a time like you mentioned where we have incredible women like Uzozibini Tunzi who show us that beauty can be diverse. And also we definitely cannot go to the conversation of pretty privilege without talking about colorism. Because, you mentioned that in this industry that I'm in, I would obviously be benefiting from pretty privilege, but I have not always benefited from pretty privilege because firstly, I'm dark skinned and also I'm not skinny. So I think it becomes an even more in-depth conversation because our society
I feel like, Mr. Cameraman, can you edit in a full shot of her? She's got a beautiful body, by the way. You're just because I know they can only see your face.
On our standards.
Yes.
Because we're African women.
Yes.
That's also in the pageant world. Things are moving.
They want you to look significantly more slim.
A lot more skinnier. We've only started seeing the rise of curvy women just now. And anything, even now there's a name, skinny thick, or what is it, thick skinny, whatever. There's a particular type of skinny that you have to be in that world. So on our standards, you look, and that's pretty privilege really, is that it's defined by people.
Yes.
Yeah. So very interesting with that. Actually, I've never heard the term, but it also, rings a bell when you speak about it to say we are in a world also where if someone is curvier or bigger, they should be curvy or big in a certain way.
Exactly.
They should have a certain waist to hip ratio. It's not like a standard of, this is just how God created me. I'll take care of my body as I should. But there's a certain way that you should be skinny. There's a certain way that you should be curvy. So I think those
in
are
the right areas. Yeah, like people say they like
Yeah.
chunky girls when you actually like big bumps.
Exactly.
I mean, come now.
Actually, even in the conversation, natural hair. There's this thing of your coil must be a particular way. Like natural hair is only as great as how loose your curl
Yes,
is.
like a Tracy Ellis Ross type of curl.
Even in with curvy girls, like you just said, really, all you want is a skinny, a thin waist
with big bums.
with big bumps and curves. But really, you're not embracing chubby women or thick women.
I remember, I mean, like we said, everybody in a certain context experiences pretty privilege to whatever level or whatever, context of the environment, whoever finds you pretty, which it becomes a difficult thing to be like, oh, I experience pretty privilege, and somebody else doesn't think you're that pretty or whatever. But I'll tell you a story where I realized that I was a benefactor of pretty privilege, but only to a certain extent.
Okay,
right?
interesting.
And so I think how does the
I
saying
want
go?
to say it.
Yes.
I thought when I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking because I face this a lot as well every single day, where you're only a benefactor depending on who you're next to.
Yes. Depending on who is the. I mean,
Interesting.
next to Zozibini.
Exactly.
So comparison.
Yes, that comparison. And so I remember the first time I started working at a radio station, campus radio, and I had always been a girl that experienced to some level. I was a cute girl, always been, according to me. And so
No, you are gorgeous. You really are.
and so
stunning.
life goes on, and I think I never really, I mean, we weren't that versed with these terms nowadays. We're pretty privileged, and I never really knew that there was such a thing. Until one day, I started working with this girl who was actually Miss SA. I think she was first princess or second princess, one of the princesses. And she was your typical Baywatch kind of girl. So flat stomach, tall, boobs. I don't even want to say her name, but her name just sounded like something out of this world. Yeah, like, she had her surname was Sky. She's just a mess, She's just a gorgeous person with a gorgeous name. And I remember her blonde hair, it had volume. It wasn't like a flat blonde hair, but like a typical Baywatch. Like, she looked like she could be on the senior Baywatch. Like, she was gorgeous. And I would see how these men act around.
And for the first time.
And I realized, I'm chopped liver in this room right now. Like, I was completely disregarded next to this girl, and she was absolutely gorgeous. Maybe not to my standard, I should be honest. That was never what I grew up knowing as beautiful. But according to a very model and worldly type of the standard, especially back then, of what beauty looked like, that blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl was what was. And I was just like, is this pretty privilege? Like, she couldn't even move or open her chair. She wouldn't
Someone
carry
is helping
her bag.
her.
She wouldn't carry her bag. She wouldn't. So is there ever a time where you've sat and you've either felt I felt very disregarded. Maybe disregarded is a bad word, but I felt, oh, Gandhi, you can be treated like that if you look at such a way. Or have you ever been in a situation where you realize I've been given this treatment simply because this person is attracted to me? And that's the privilege I hold right now.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly been the former because I actually started noticing it when I was younger. So for some reason, I've just always had friends that are a lot lighter in complexion than I am. And earlier we were speaking about colorism.
Yes.
And I would see how adults would just respond to my friends that were lighter. They were cute, they were pretty, and they would get all these kind of sort of nice things associated with them, and I wouldn't really get that kind of response. So for me, it started at quite a young age when I would see that adults, my lighter skinned friends were beautiful, they were cute, they were pretty, they are the ones that should be in front when something is happening. Or as I got older, I also started seeing, obviously, when we speak about attraction, how guys would be attracted to all my other
girls.
friends, because they were lighter skin and they had smaller, nice slim figured bodies. But also, it would also sadden me a lot when I would speak to some of my guy friends that were darker, and they would say that they would not want to be with someone that is dark skinned. So I think this conversation is so deep that we actually, we'll never have enough time to
30 minutes is not enough.
Yeah, to go so in depth with it, because one of my guy friends that's dark skinned, he said to me he would not want to marry a dark skinned woman because he wants to have beautiful babies. Those are the exact words that came out of his mouth. And I felt sad for him, because then, what is he saying about his mother? as
About
well.
himself.
Or himself.
About himself.
About
What is he
himself.
saying about himself?
Very substandard.
So it was, yeah, for me, I've always kind of been, unfortunately, on the other end of things. And at the same time, it's helped me now because I'm more confident in who I am now. You know, I've worked on my body and how I feel about myself, and I'm more confident that I don't need affirmation from anyone else. I know I'm beautiful. No one needs to reaffirm me. No one needs to say it. That's just where I stand now. But definitely, I used to look and be like, oh my goodness, I want that kind of treatment. I want that kind of attention, you know. But
sure,
yeah.
and you're saying from a young age, I mean, at least I was in my 20s when that realization hit. But I remember just thinking, how many things have I missed out on?
And you know, just on the conversation of people and picking almost genes of their kids based on their complexion, there's a girl who reflected on Twitter to say she's with a very dark man, and people around her keep saying, yo, I hope the baby takes your complexion. So the baby shouldn't be as dark as your partner, you know? And that's already, like, kid is not born, and they're already experiencing colorism.
Yes, and
I'm a
how
baby, not
problematic.
born, you know? So you come into a world that already says, we're not,
and especially because especially because melanin takes so many different shades. You'll find a single family with, like, I remember there was this 4 sisters that I knew, and the one was specifically lighter than all the others. And one day they went to go visit like a great-grand, some, you know, distant aunt, and that lady then said, "Ooh," like to the father, "At least you've got one beautiful girl."
We're laughing now,
and that people don't even realize that when we have those kinds of conversations, it can leave someone with so much trauma and so much pain and so much hurt. Like, I have a beautiful dark-skinned black mother. My mother is gorgeous. But when I was having this conversation with her, I remember it was probably 5 years ago, that she was telling me about how when she grew up, the teachers in school would tease her about her dark skin and call her names.
Yeah.
And for me, to show how deeply hurt she was by that, even at her age, she started to tear up. She started to get tears in her eyes. And I was looking at my mother, I'm like, you know, even to this point in life, you know, people can carry those things for so long. But I mean, now she just knows she's gorgeous. But it's just to say, if we actually don't deal with it, people carry those wounds for years.
But you can imagine somebody growing up in that era, especially because, I mean, right now, because of your Lupitas, because of your Zozis, because of those people, we're starting to look at dark skin differently. But you can imagine back in that era, had somebody told her that one day, like, the world is going to consider you beautiful, it would have been a never, not me, you know.
Yeah.
I remember watching this study. I can't remember the exact study, but it was just around looking at kids and how they think of color. And they had a dark doll, and then they had a light-skinned doll. So I'll say a white doll. And then they were like, the researchers were like, what's the doll that you think stole something? Or what's the doll? And kids that look like the dark doll would say, this doll stole, this doll is the one that did the bad things, likely. So it has a lot of conditioning. And then I just wanted to say, then our society judges people for bleaching their skin. I mean, we're all for embracing our skins and so forth. We're coming to an age where we want to embrace any skin color, but you also cannot bash someone all their life and then judge them for choosing to take the route of lightening their skin. We're being disingenuous, because if we are a world of accepting people for who they are, then people would not be needing to lighten their skin or bleach their skin.
This is really difficult, firstly, because now we've moved into colorism, which is still fine. I think it's a beautiful conversation to have. But isn't the judging those people, doesn't it come from the thing that you're taking us back? We are trying so hard to push a mission here. You know, I don't know whether I'm playing devil's advocate here, but
hear what you're saying.
We're actually just saying how mutu. It's like somebody who is still enforcing some kind of racism or some kind of bad notion.
If there was no racism or no colorism.
Okay, but it still exists.
The truth is, colorism still dictates job decisions. It still dictates crime profiling. The darker guy is likely to be profiled for a crime than a lighter guy. You know? So, yeah, I would agree with you that we're going back.
Yes. I mean, I'd love to hear from a man. Bubs, are you giving people special privilege here?
All right. So, like, you are beautiful. You are a model. Have you, like, your beauty worked against you? Like, as in, like, maybe someone, you can be you can be at a TV advertisement. Ne? Have, like, your beauty worked against you? As in, like, someone maybe wants to sleep with you before, like, getting like a gig or something, because you are beautiful, you are a model, and they know that like they can take advantage of that. Have you experienced some kind of a thing?
I've definitely experienced people coming across as professional at first, but just to make certain advances. I am fortunate in the sense that I haven't had extreme cases of having to sort of stand up for myself and fight to say, I'm not gonna do certain favors for me to get a certain position or things like that. So I think also in our country, it does come across a little different, because I think one of the bigger issues when it comes to pretty privilege is colorism. So most South African men would not consider a woman of my skin tone beautiful. So it's not even, they aren't those questions of people wanting to make certain advances of, you know, wanting favors for me to get a specific position or for me to get something. Because in general, overall, you find that when you are considered beautiful, it's, you know, like a small gene pool, I feel, of South African men that consider dark-skinned women beautiful. Or maybe I just haven't been exposed to
the right,
yeah.
You know, when Babaland asks, by the way, if you don't know, the other person behind the microphone is Babaland, and he is our man here to weigh in on the issue around pretty privilege. And so when he was asking the question, I remembered a time where I was doing my master's, right? And I remember my supervisor had said to me, you busy with champagne or something, like very insinuating, like a very slay queen type of thing, because I go to school looking pretty and I'm in this really highly science male dominated space. And that's the part, maybe it wasn't a privilege disadvantage or pretty privilege disadvantage or whatever, but I felt very offended. I don't think he would say that to any other white student. I don't think he would say that to any other male student, you know, but I felt very victimized for being, you know, like a black female student who not only black female, but who likes to look pretty and put on a bit of mascara, put on a bit of makeup, and I was really now placed into this group of like, you're just a little doll, you know, and you're very undeserving to be in the science space, you know. You
know, because all my life I've always liked looking pretty and I've always liked things. I found that to be taken, I wanted to work hard in order to show Hori, you can be the girl that likes makeup and likes things, but also quite smart and hardworking. So even in high school, I always found myself wanting to prove Hori, I won't get pregnant too early in my life, or I won't, because it's like, because of my looks, I don't care what y'all think.
No, you used to model at some point.
Yes,
yeah, you used to model, I remember,
So, because of my looks and just being out there, I consciously wanted to fight that. People had almost parked away from me. Okay, after this, it's pregnancy. After this, it's this as a young kid, you know. So even in varsity, I found myself it's saying, like, if I'm late, I didn't want to be late for class because people would say it's because you're doing your face. So I had to always be on time with that beat face to show you can be both. You can be everything.
And I should be honest, I mean, even me, if somebody rocks up with a very dolled up face, I don't immediately think doctor.
Exactly.
I'm always like, interesting. You know, which is wrong. Those stereotypes are so wrong.
On that note, have you ever leveraged on your beauty? I know I have. Like in certain instances. Like in certain instances, I'm like, I need to wear my high waist pants and I need to put on a good face because I need to get good service. And that's a pity as well. Yeah. That's a pity as well.
No, definitely. There are times where you know the way you look is going to help you. In a sense, whether it's standing in a queue, you know you're going to go deal with home affairs. You know, you don't go to home affairs looking shabby. They'll serve you last.
Yes.
So if you want to make sure you get to skip the queue or something, you also show up, you know, especially when you know that you need, many times, I don't want to lie, SARS. I go there looking.
Yes.
I remember this guy said to me, he said, you're in Zulu. Yes. That's what I'm meant to do. I'm trying to skip this queue, that's what I'm trying to do. So
And did it work?
No, it always works.
It always works.
Oh, okay.
And so there are times where you do leverage on like really just, and I'm sure you experience it as well, where you're like, ish, I need to show up with all my, batting eyes and be as, okay, maybe it's just me and you, Bonga.
I think for me, it's because it's only recently. Actually, it's interesting that we're having this conversation now because 2 weeks ago, I was having this same conversation with some of my other friends. And they were speaking about this and they said, have you never tried like to use your beauty to get lower prices? Like when you want to buy something. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no. Like if I want to bargain, like I work on it to try get a lower price. And I'm like, what? I've never tried that. But at the same time, maybe sometimes you do benefit from it without realizing.
Yes.
Without.
I don't know. Maybe I have benefited
I
without seeing.
when I used to do promotions, I would promise guys my numbers before. I'd have them buy whatever, and then if you buy this, I'm gonna give you my numbers. And I would, because I know I can block you or whatever. But I even got promotional gigs, good gigs, because of that, because I'd leverage on my beauty at that time.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
No,
Okay.
I can also definitely agree with what you're saying. I mean, many times, whether it's you were speeding, how officer, phone number, and then what?
Actually, I've been in the exact.
Yeah.
Guys, I was so tipsy.
How have I not known about this privilege?
actually
I'm
embarrassed.
actually quite disappointed because if I looked like you, I'd have a house.
Exactly.
That's what I know.
Exactly.
That's all I know. If I looked like you, I would own a house. I would, But like, yeah, there is a certain, time where, and that's the part where it becomes, okay, we're mbogoto, we're like doing this whole fight thing for us to be taken seriously.
Right.
And whatever. But when it suits us, and I'm going to be the first one to say, when it suits us, it's easy to now say how officer phone number nyana.
Yes.
Let's keep it moving, let's
So then
keep
it ends up
moving.
blurring the lines.
It
though.
does end up
It
blurring
does.
the lines because
Yeah.
then that officer has that mentality to say, okay, if she was willing to negotiate with her phone number and her pretty, if she was willing to use her pretty to get out of certain, then what makes him different when he goes to the next lady, or he feels like he's got some kind of entitlement to go to the next woman and be like, okay, give me your number and I'll let you go for free, because that's the. So we all kind of need to stand in solidarity with, with regards to what message are we sending, and
That's true.
yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes the lines
I've never
become-
had to think about that. How much we're regressing.
Yes,
Some of
the
the
fight,
moves we're
the
Just to
movement.
get out of a sticky situation.
But I can't promise, I'm saying today, I can't promise I won't do it. I can promise that I will try.
But it is true that to a certain extent we do regress a bit because we sort of
Yes.
feed into men's sense of entitlement towards us.
Yes.
When we do that. Which
when
is,
it suits us to
But
do
I
that.
wonder, is it not us just fitting to an unjust system? Like, this system is already unjust. Let me just.
be more unjust.
No, but I get what you're saying because it
Yeah.
points back to people bleaching themselves. So we're in a
Yes.
society that gives privilege to lighter people. So I'm going to do what I need to do to
Yes.
get that privilege, in the same way. I mean, beauty is a currency. Money, and for women, it's a currency. Money is a currency for men. I mean, you can find a man who's super intelligent, who's, got this really charismatic, but as soon as you hear Rumuntoki waiter, shame, waiter, all of a sudden, aram sankosi, but the guy is brilliant, he's intelligent. So money is a currency. Like, we're all running on these different currencies and we're using some kind of privilege or the other,
Yes.
to get ourselves ahead. And if somebody's saying, hey, I want my currency to be beauty, and they need to, are they moving us back in the movement? Yes, but for them in their life, in this
They
generation,
need that.
it works for them.
Yes.
And then how do you then judge that person? Babaland, I want to get your opinion on something. So we're talking about pretty privilege and how girls have leverage or whatever, but I want to know from you, was there ever a time where you were a little bit more kind or a little bit more generous because the girl was so gorgeous?
Interesting.
Yes. The thing is with me, whenever I want a beauty lady, I know he's gonna be out of the line, but then whenever I want a beauty lady, I always go to the strip clubs or the brothels. That is where I can get a pretty lady.
I need a camera. I need a camera.
That you can afford.
Yeah,
I like
that I
that.
can afford because like there are like certain like prices that for different ladies in
Yes,
there.
yes, yes. So,
Because as in like right now, I know I'm broke and I don't look pretty and everything.
I love that.
Yeah. So
A man that knows.
yeah, so I always go to your summit clubs, your royal parks, where you would get like someone you can meet at the mall and they will reject you. But then inside there, it's like a free game for everyone.
Yes.
As long as you have money to afford them. So I don't do like favors because someone is beautiful or anything like that. Yeah.
You know where to get beautiful girls.
Yeah, I know where to get beautiful girls.
That's
So I don't know. Yeah. It's me. Like
I like that.
I'm like that.
okay.
I like that.
No, and I can actually respect that. I can
I
respect
do.
somebody who just, we're thinking, I'm not going to go compromise the situation at work and give one advantages over the other. I'd rather, stick within. I'm sorry, I'm laughing so hard.
You are laughing at me now.
No, I'm
So
definitely
I'm
not
being
laughing
honest.
at you, Babsy. Definitely not laughing at you. But yes, just staying within those limits of being professional in a workspace and not trying to buy face and whatever else. And you're saying you've never experienced, or not that you know of that you've experienced.
Remember,
No.
I want to interrupt this one because remember, for the first time, all her life she's been existing from a point where she's never benefited. So she never see, even now, when she fits the prescripts. Like even now she
Yes.
said she doesn't benefit. But to us it's like, hey bo, have you seen yourself?
Have you seen yourself?
It's
Yeah,
because
yeah.
now her frame of mind has to
Yes.
come to the point where actually
Yes.
I fit this and this and
This,
So
Yeah.
I don't think she'll even realize it.
I probably
when she
never
does.
will. I think because it's also it took me a long time to even get to a point where I could look at myself in the mirror and
I
tell
wish this
myself I'm
episode was
beautiful.
on colorism because really that's another conversation that we needed to have.
Like she said, pretty privilege, a lot of it is rooted in colorism.
Yeah.
So we could have
In
girls
our context.
that look,
Yeah.
we could have girls that look identical, but the one that's lighter will still come out as being prettier than the darker one. So yeah, it really does. Because even pretty privilege, when I think about it, I think of a light-skinned girl that's a particular size and so forth. So colorism, pretty privilege is rooted in colorism a lot of the times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some heavy stuff. Ladies, it's been really awesome hanging out with you. By the way, you're an occupational therapist, so she's not only beauty, she's also very much brains. And you're a master's candidate as well. You're doing some great things, and we really wish you all the best in your journey and everything else that you're going to do. And we hope that you start to relish in your pretty privilege because you're absolutely
Girl, use
gorgeous.
Thank you.
Girl, you see, you're
Thank
taking us
you.
back, Bonga. What are you taking us back? What's this girl using?
We are taking advantage of a system that is already existing.
But remember, we don't want to regress as well.
I was thinking, but it's difficult. It really is difficult because, like I said, I can't promise that I'll do it 100%, but I can promise to try Kitlazama. But there are times where I'm in a sticky situation, and if a 10-digit number will get me out of this situation, then hey, so yeah, but we definitely will try not to regress. Once again, though, thank you so much for joining us on Conversation Capital, discussing all things to do with pretty privilege and actually a lot to do with colorism and just the insight from you, because when I look at you, I don't see anybody that could ever experience anything other than pretty privilege, and you're saying actually it's quite the opposite. So that definitely was a turn of events. So we will catch you guys on our very next episode. How does it work on YouTube? Subscribe, like,
comment,
tell your father,
share.
Tell your people that pretty privilege, offer them the name of the YouTube channel, instead of your 10-digit number. I think it's quite a good thing to leverage on and do all the things. Once again, see you next time.